Welcome back to Explorium Academy Session 8. In today's video, we're going to be building the outbound go-to-market agent. All right, so we are back here in n8n, and today we're going to be building our outbound go-to-market agent. And this agent, we designed it a certain way based on how we viewed it would be the most effective, but like most of our other videos, and particularly this video, this agent has a lot of flexibility and you can change it however you think would be the best for your use case. So for us, the way we envisioned it is we want to prompt this agent using natural language to find us certain type of contacts at certain companies. So for example, we can prompt the agent, hey, can you find me 5 marketing leaders at fintech startups who joined in the past year and have valid contact information? Then this agent would go ahead, find valid companies, then find valid contacts at that company. And then in order to be an outbound agent, it would then enrich with valid contact information and relevant company information and do relevant research and then draft and send emails to these contacts. Now, let's get started. So like I mentioned, we want this agent to be prompted with natural language. Again, this can change based on your use case, but for us, this is what we think is going to be this is what we think is going to be useful. So let's add this first step in here, and we're going to add a natural language trigger on a chat message. Great, so we have that here. Perfect. So now that that is inputted, let's add in a chat just to test that it's working. So let's add in the sample prompt, find me 5 marketing leaders at fintech startups who have joined in the last year and have valid contact information. Again, you can make this prompt whatever you want. You can make it find me 10 executives at Fortune 500 companies. You can make it, it's very, very flexible based on your marketing needs. So let's run this prompt. Great, executed successfully. You can see that the input is now ready to move on to the later steps in our workflow. So let's hide that and keep moving. Okay, so the next step of this workflow is to use an AI agent and some other helper nodes to create a valid API input from this natural language. And so we're going to do this using a few ways. The first thing is a few code nodes, but the main brain behind this operation is going to be an AI agent node using the Explorium MCP with knowledge of its documentation in order to reformat this natural language prompt into a valid API input. So in order to save some time and for some clarity, I'm just going to add in that step right here. You can see it's a combination of a few nodes. I'll go through it very quickly. It's nothing we haven't seen before. So let me just add this right here. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to add this input, this chat message right here to the beginning of this loop. And we're going to go through it quickly. So the first thing here is a chat or refinement node. And this will make more sense a little bit later. But essentially, here's the code that is in it. It's very, very, very simple. But essentially, what this node is looking for is either has an input directly from the chat input, and if that is so, it just goes directly to the AI agent. The other possible input is if the AI agent doesn't produce a valid API call, then it will go through a validation prompter and send right back here, and it will then get refined by the AI agent. All right, so now the next step is this AI agent node. Nothing we haven't seen before. We've used many of them in many previous videos. You can see that it has these 4 other subnodes attached, the Anthropic chat model that we've used with every other AI agent. Again, you can put any other chat model that you prefer here. We're using some simple n8n memory, which is included with n8n. We have our Explorium MCP attached right here. And lastly, we have an output parser, which just allows us to have a structured output in the format of our valid API call. And lastly, going into the AI agent, you can see that it is set up very similarly. We have an agent with our prompt below, which is just going to be the user input. And then we have a system message like every other agent we have used. and you can see it here. And just scrolling through it so you can see it very clearly. Perfect. All right, so now that this part of the workflow is set up, we can go ahead and run through it. But then just a few more nodes that we want to go through quickly is this API call validation, which essentially just checks to see if these filters are included. These are all the allowed filters that we allow in our API call, as well as some very set values that we allow within some of these filters. It is essentially just making sure that the AI is not hallucinating any values and keeping to the documentation of Explorium's API suite. I'll open this so it's a little bit clearer. And all this information can be found on Explorium's documentation page, which should be linked in the video. All right. Very simple node, essentially just making sure that the AI agent is creating a valid API call. And last but not least, we have is the API call valid? A very simple if statement, basically just saying from that last step, is it valid? Is it not valid? We're just checking, is it true? If true, we can move on. If not true, it goes to the validation prompter to this code node here. All right. So now let's run through um, let's run through this again and we'll input the same message. Perfect. The workflow executed successfully. If we go into here is the valid API call and we can say, is it true? We can see that we have our valid API call here, which we can now feed into the next step. And the next step is now to be going into the Explorium API nodes and specifically calling fetch prospects. Now, we are calling fetch prospects because specifically the way that this is set up is we wanted to find prospects within certain companies that we are asking for. So we already asked for specific prospects. This again could be tailored to search for specific companies, and then you'd have to tailor this AI agent to have a valid API call for our fetch businesses endpoint. All right, so next step, let's go into the Explorium API nodes, and we're going to go to fetch. And like I mentioned, we wanted fetch prospects. And in previous uses of this node, we have used uh, some of the filters that are already set here. But because we already have a full API call as our input, we don't need to use any of these. But instead, we're going to go down here to advanced JSON input. It will get rid of all of everything here. And we want to add this as expression. Let's delete everything inside. And we are going to now drag in our output right here. Perfect. So now we have our entire API call as the input into this fetch prospects node, and we are going to go ahead and execute this step. Awesome. The node executed successfully, and we can see that we have 5 prospects that have been outputted here. Great. So we're moving along well. We now, from our natural language prompt, already have 5 prospects that from the specified companies and job titles and departments that we asked for. All right, so now the next thing is from these 5 prospects that we pulled, we now want to enrich it further with further contact information and relevant information so we can help draft a relevant and strong outbound email. So first things first, we need to pull the relevant prospect IDs from this output. So we're gonna do that using a code node just to make the rest of the processes easier. So like we've done before, let's open a code node in JavaScript, delete what is here before, and this is going to be a very simple code node. It is simply just returning the prospect IDs as a list. Perfect. So now you can see we have our 5 prospect IDs from the 5 prospects that we pulled in the previous step. Okay. So now that we have the prospect IDs extracted using this code node, let's go ahead and do the enrichment we were talking about. So let's go and grab the Explorium API, specifically the enrich action, and we are going to do a prospect enrichment. And let's choose the enrichments we want to do. Let's do contact information, professional profile, and LinkedIn posts. Might as well get all the information. And now, because we have this input as our prospect IDs, just simply a list of prospect IDs, we're going to use an advanced JSON input. You can see here, we're going to do a fixed expression. And this is just an example that's there right now. But what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to input this into the box here. It's essentially just dragging in this prospect IDs, but we're adding JSON.stringify in front of it in order to put it in the correct format. Just showing a different way how we are able to input the prospect IDs into this node based on your previous inputs. All right, so now this is done, we can go ahead and execute this step. Perfect. You can see that it executed successfully. We have our 5 enriched prospects right here. Amazing. So now the next thing we do, moving along forward, is we need to clean this up a little bit so we can then further analyze it to create some valid researched outbound emails. So again, let's do a code node just to clean up some of this output a little bit. We're going to put this in JavaScript, and I have the code here. We'll open it so it's easier for you guys to read, and I'll scroll through it quickly. But essentially, this is just cleaning it up into some very relevant fields that we can then use. All right. Now let's execute this step quickly. Perfect, executed successfully. All right, so now we're ready to keep moving. We have all of our context that we asked for using natural language fully enriched with the relevant information that we are looking for. And now the next thing to do is to do some research on these prospects in order to get some very well thought out drafted emails for outbound purposes. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to loop through each of these prospects, and we're going to send it through 2 specific AI agent nodes. The first one is going to be a research agent to supplement any of the enriched information for these contacts with any additional information on the company or the prospect that may be missing that the AI agent thinks is important. And then we're going to send it through a second node, which will be very focused on writing a very well-structured email that we'll then send to our Gmail. The reason we are splitting these 2 processes up into 2 separate AI agents is because we have realized that AI agents work better with very specific instruction, designated to very specific tasks. Like we mentioned before, there are 2 different, in the very beginning of all these sessions, there are 2 different types of agents. There's ones that can do everything, and there's ones that are known for very specific tasks. And the best practice is to, instead of having an AI agent work on many different tasks, is to separate it into different AI agents, then come together to complete the task as a whole. So, like I mentioned, we're going to go through these AI agents. Now, first things first, we need to loop over each of the contacts that we have. So we're going to do a loop over node right here. Perfect. And now that we have that inputted, we can go ahead and add in the rest of our information. So first things first, we're going to add in an AI agent. And now this first AI agent, like I mentioned, is going to be a research agent. So it is going to have access to the Explorium MCP to add any additional information on the company that is being used, or the company of the prospect, or the prospect itself. So I do have some predefined prompts that I've written before this video, and I will input it here. So we do have a prompt message right here that is as follows. And you can see this is tailored towards Explorium's outbound purposes, but you can adjust this prompt so it best fits your company's needs. All right, now that we have that inputted, now let's add in the system message. So we're going to go down here to add options. Let's add a system message. And we can add in right here what we have. And just to scroll through it quickly so you can see what we have. Perfect. All right, so we have those parameters set. Now, next thing we need to do is add in the chat model. Like always, we're gonna add in an Anthropic chat model. All right. Now, the next thing we need to add in is a tool. We're gonna add in an MCP tool. So let's go down here to MCP client tool, and let's put in the Explorium MCP. So this AI agent has access to Explorium's data. Go here to streamable. We're gonna go to header auth, and we will go to Explorium. Perfect. We have those two set up. Let's make it a little bit cleaner. Awesome. All right, so now that we have that done, we can go ahead and execute some of these previous nodes. Okay, now that this executed, let's go ahead and add in our next AI agent. So we're gonna go over here to AI agent. Perfect. All right, so let's add in our prompt here. Perfect, it's a pre-written prompt that I have, basically just laying out the information that's gonna be fed into the agent. We also wanna have a system message that I have also pre-written. So let's go over here to system message. Perfect. And I'll just scroll through it for you, basically just laying out the email that it will be written, that it'll be writing. Amazing. All right, and then like every other AI agent, let's quickly add a chat model. And we want a specific output for this one. So let's go over here. Let's require a specific output. Let's go to output parser. Perfect. And we're going to define a specific output, which I already have defined. So I will go ahead and paste it right there. And just for reference, this is what it's going to look like, giving a very specific output so we can drag it into the relevant Gmail node very easily. All right, so now let's go ahead and run this entire workflow from start to finish and see what it gives us. All right, so now the email agent executed successfully, and we can see the output here on the right-hand side. You can see it's structured in the way we asked for it. We have the email of the prospect, a subject line for the email, and the message written very clearly here. So now last but not least is to actually output this email to your desired place. I'm going to use Gmail. And we're going to put that right here in the loop as well. So we can go ahead and delete this replace me node. It's not necessary. And let's add in the Gmail node. And we are going to send a message. Or you could do send a message. I'm actually going to do create a draft because I would like to have some human in the loop in order to validate all of the emails before they actually get sent out. All right, so now we can see that that is inputted here. All right, so now let's go ahead and add our credentials. I have mine already inputted, but you should input yours. We're going to create a draft here, and let's drag in our necessary things. So we're going to add in our subject right here. Let's put in our email type, text. Let's put in the message right here. Perfect. And then now we just need to go to email, and let's drag in the email. Great, and that's everything we need to do in order to create a draft sent to our email. And if we execute the step, and perfect, you can see that this executed successfully, and then we have a draft sent to my Gmail right here with this information here. You can see that this is a well thought out, great outbound email created by our two agents. And that is the entire workflow, gone through very quickly, created in a short amount of time. You should spend some time going through this yourself and adjusting where you think is necessary and really get creative with this project. And again, for time purposes, we went through this very quickly, but for best practice, go ahead and rename some of these nodes so they're clear and you can go through and read what the workflow is actually doing very easily. So this should be called maybe a research agent, this can be called an email agent, and so on. But Yeah, thanks for sticking around, and I look forward to seeing everyone in session 9 to wrap up Explorium Academy. Thank you.